cybersecurity in itself is a part of multi-domain warfare.
That cybersecurity is an integral part of our national security.
When you look at the domain of cyber warfare,
State actors, non-state actors, criminal gangs,
cyber crime, everybody seems to be talking.
the essence of the entire connectivity is the data.
Cyber response in Opsindu was optimum.
Digital ecosystem had actually been bombarded with
Spy ship was moving around in the Indian Ocean region.
undersea cable connectivity gets disrupted.
Do we look at only a conflict to happen?
Op SINDOOR.
Not only offensive operations, but proactive operations.
Despite all these challenges, we still were able to protect our assets.
What is the future of cybersecurity in India?
So the first impact is on the digital highway,
Do you look at platforms or do you look at networks?
the digital networks for future.
And doom scrolling is actually shaping narratives.
When you don't know what's truth and what's fiction.
Great debate which is going on. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the show insofar as all cutting-edge technologies, geopolitics, defense and aerospace is concerned. Today we have with us Lieutenant General M.U. Nair, Param Vishish Seva Medal, Ati Vishish Seva Medal, Sena Medal. The former Signal Officers-in-Chief Indian Army and, of course, the former National Cybersecurity Coordinator in the National Security Council Secretariat, under the tutelage of the National Security Advisor. Welcome to the show, sir. We are so glad to have you here on the show today.
Thank you very much. Wonderful being here, and I look forward to a wonderful interaction with you.
Thank you very much, sir. So to start with, sir, let's begin from the very beginning, as to what exactly is the mandate, sir, as the National Cybersecurity Coordinator, apparently as the National Cybersecurity Chief, as part of the National Security Council Secretariat apparatus, sir. And when was this realized by the Government of India that cybersecurity in itself is a part of multi-domain warfare, sir?
All right. That's a wonderful question. Actually, we started the journey into this cyber domain in the mid-90s when the internet started coming into the country, and the proliferation of the digital connect which we have in the ecosystem started since then. I had not heard of a term called cyber before 1990s. I've spent 40 years in the army, and before 1995 there was no word like cyber. I've never heard of it. When the digital ecosystem started growing within the country, and over the past decade or so, the transformation in the digital domain has been so remarkable that today literally every citizen of our country is connected to the digital highways. Look at the Bharat Net, which is a national optical fiber network which has been laid, which is connecting every village in our country. We have more than 1.3 billion devices which are part of our digital connect ecosystem. Every citizen virtually has access to this particular network. Through this large network, we have transactions in terms of the financial services like the UPI. It carries out transactions about 615 million every day, of volume more than 82,000 crores. Now, this is a remarkable achievement which I think no other country actually has such large digital ecosystem.
Yes.
In fact, more than 45% of the digital transactions in the world today are carried out in our country every day.
True.
So this is the large ecosystem which we have. And since we have such a large ecosystem, there are challenges too. Also, we need to realize that when the COVID happened, that's the time when even our children, we started our schooling right from online at our homes. Now, there were certain challenges in terms of the reach, connect, etc. And security probably was not one of those aspects which was addressed or thought of at that point of time. So, the large connect which we have today has some deficiencies, and it's the job of the National Cybersecurity Coordinator to make sure that this entire large digital canvas which we have is protected, with multiple ministries which are involved in this endeavor, getting there, and multiple structures, organizations which are there, get their act together and make sure that this entire ecosystem is protected.
My God, that's a large mandate, sir. That's a very large mandate. But having said that, sir, a lot of people still are of the view that when you look at the domain of cyber warfare, it's in offensive warfare. It's a part of offensive operations. So what are your views on cyber warfare? Is it controlled, not controlled? What are the pluses, minuses of all of that?
Yeah, that's, I'd mentioned to you about this large digital ecosystem. Now, I'd mentioned also about the vulnerabilities which are there. Now, there are countries, there are state actors, non-state actors, criminal gangs who are probably looking at this large ecosystem to see if there are any points of vulnerability, to see if they can be targeted. For multiple purposes.
Yes.
It could
yes.
be.
Yes.
So one of the ways we can address this particular thing is to have this entire digital canvas viewed. There are multiple challenges I'd mentioned. Can it be protected in completely? Every time we have large number of it's capital intensive, it is human intensive. There are people, there are processes, there are technologies involved in this protecting this ecosystem. Now, you mentioned a term, cyber warfare.
Yes.
And now, if we have this large digital canvas connecting every element of, I'm sure you understand the comprehensive national power.
Of course.
There are multiple elements which makes this comprehensive national power.
It's a part of it, actually.
Yes. So every element of comprehensive national power today is connected through this digital canvas which we have.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
And that's why we always felt that cybersecurity is an integral part of our national security ecosystem.
It is.
And so is it a part of our attempt to protect this. You could term it as cyber warfare. But let me also put it across that it's not for everyone to get involved. Like we have soldiers protecting our borders. There has to be cyber warriors protecting our large digital ecosystem.
Yes.
Now, it cannot be a mandate given to every individual. So when you talk about offensive operations, it has to be a controlled activity, like you had put across. It cannot be an uncontrolled activity. So there are only few organizations and structures which have the mandate to do this particular operation. And while protection is everybody's responsibility, but to carry out operations in this domain, there are certain organizations which have this responsibility.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. So we'll just segue a little from this, great military topic, sir, just to get a little chutzpah into the entire talk, sir. There's this great talk, sir, of cyber crime. Everybody seems to be talking. And, there's ransomware, which has become the latest buzzword. Some thoughts on that, sir?
Okay. Now, all of us today carry digital devices. It could be in the form of smartphones, which we have. It could be in the form of any of those IoT devices which we have in our homes. It could be a smart TV. It could be a smart, today even the ceiling fans are smart.
Of course.
Yeah. So there are multiple devices which are there. Now, every citizen today is connected, as I mentioned, on the digital highway. Now, it's very easy to target a citizen today by virtue of the fact that, there are two fundamental human qualities which are there of fear and greed, which are exploited by, scamsters. And that's how we have a large fraction of this society coming under cyber scams. You see digital arrest, you see so multiple versions of this.
Yes.
This is one way that the non-state actors or criminal syndicates influence our citizens, and that's where I think we as citizens need to have that minimum cyber awareness. We need to have the cyber hygiene being followed. These are small little qualities which we need to imbibe in ourselves as citizens, and it's our responsibility as citizens to make sure that we know the best practices in this domain as citizens. I know that it's a difficult venture, understanding, what to do when you get a link which is malicious. Senior citizens may not be even aware of it. That's how the cyber crime impacts on us as citizens.
It does.
And there are a number of activities which the Ministry of Home has actually carried out. And I'm sure you're aware of a lot of initiatives through the I4C, the organizations like the I4C.
That's correct.
As you pick up a mobile or a phone today, you hear a dial tone. indicating to you that there are don't fall prey to
Don't fall prey,
cybercrime,
yes.
or dial 1930
That's
when
correct.
there is a incident which you feel when you're impacted by it. So these are some of the steps which the government has taken very recently.
And how about ransomware, sir? As to how it comes through, and where it comes through, and how does it manifest?
Okay. Now, ransomware is a more organized work, more focused at industry, enterprises, etc., and it's for extortion, where a threat actor gets into an enterprise or an industry and makes sure that his entire IT network, including the data, is either if it it's taken control of.
Okay.
That's how ransomware works. And unless you pay that ransomware actor certain amount of money, they demand money, and they will not decrypt that data. So this is how the ecosystem works.
God, this is very, very, very complex.
Yes,
very complex.
There are large organized gangs which are working on it within the country and outside.
Okay.
And since the domain of cyber doesn't have any boundaries, so it can be transnational too.
Of course.
That's how the ransomware ecosystem operates today.
They must be possibly contributing to their own economies as well, for all we know, sir.
Absolutely.
So now, sir, from this, this cyber crime, let me segue you to Op SINDOOR. And we had a large amount of, inputs coming into the media in terms of, cyber hacking, some sites getting hacked, etc., sir. So do you think our cyber response in Op SINDOOR was optimum? Was it an outstanding response? Are there any gaps, or do you think it was a well coordinated effort?
Okay. That unfortunate incident which happened on 22nd of April in Pahalgam. Immediately after that, our Honorable Prime Minister declared a response, which is there. Since then, our digital ecosystem had actually been bombarded with a lot of challenges. In fact, we had very severe attacks. One of them was, the denial of services attacks.
Yes, sir.
They were all focused on this. I had mentioned to you about the large financial canvas which we have.
Yes.
The financial ecosystem.
That's correct.
So there were targeted attacks on our stock exchanges, on our NPCI, the UPI platform itself, a lot of public sector banks, onto our critical infrastructures like the energy, etc. And there was a coordinated action by the organizations and structures which have been placed by the government today to respond to this.
Oh, wow.
And we had, in fact, the major contribution was from the chief information security officers of the respective organizations, like, the financial sector or the banking sector. They were all up and about to protect their ecosystems. And I don't think we had I don't think we had any major challenge which we faced in the digital ecosystem of ours. I don't think any of your UPI transactions got impacted.
Not whatsoever.
So that shows the resilience of our system or the robustness of our system. So that's something which we should all be proud of. But yes, the adversaries are definitely, they know that, this resilience is there in the system. And in a digital ecosystem, there can be multiple ways to overcome these, or, they will find out more better practices.
More shunts around
the system. And they'll continue to attempt to, cause, challenges in this particular domain. That's something which we need to be watchful of.
Very watchful.
So I'm sure the government is, I think the organizations are well aware of it, and I'm sure everybody is taking suitable precautions. And it's something where we all as citizens also need to be aware of.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's so heartening to hear that, sir. And, one great part about this country, it's as you just mentioned, is the digital public infrastructure, or the DPI. I think that is the basic reason why so many people across the world now are wanting to copy it and possibly, get on with it in terms of not only financial transactions, in terms of even governance, frankly. Yes. I mean, so the digital public infrastructure is a repository of governance.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I've been to some of the remotest areas, and it was actually fantastic to see our citizens using the UPI. Like if you go to the southernmost island, the Campbell Bay,
yes,
in South Andamans, you'll find that the citizens are using using today are UPI.
What a great thing to happen, sir. The southernmost tip of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and you open a UPI. I think it's phenomenal for what this country has done. Actually,
I think we should be very proud of it.
Very proud, indeed. Sir, now moving on to from Op SINDOOR, you keep hearing that so and so spy ship or a hydrographic vessel, or some kind of a strange ship was moving around in the Indian Ocean region, has docked near some friendly neighbors, friendly and not so friendly, whatever they are, sir. And they are carrying out some activities. We all know what kind of activities they are, sir. Now, having said that, sir, now there is this great debate which is going on about these undersea cables, which are the basic backbone of any digital infrastructure anywhere in the world.
Absolutely.
Sir. Even the Indian Navy has started talking about it now, sir. What are your views on this, sir? How do we, tackle this challenge?
Okay. The data, in fact, the essence of the entire connectivity is the data, which actually moves from point A to point B.
Correct, sir.
Today, all data flowing into the country and out of the country. In fact, a majority of it actually comes through the submarine cables which you mentioned.
Yes.
So we have more than 17 of these submarine cables coming in at multiple points of the country.
17.
In fact, the numbers keep changing because there are more connectivities coming up in near future. So they all come and come into our peninsular area through the seas, and that connected at various points of time. And that's where the data into the country and out of the country actually flows through. There are other gateways through, like terrestrial connectivity, which is existing with some of our neighboring nations. Also, the satellite highways which are there through the space-based systems, platforms which are there. So the connectivity of this country, by and large, comes through these submarine cables.
Yes.
Now, these cables actually pass through alignments which are well defined, and they pass through routes like the Red Sea, which is always a conflict zone currently. And so also the Malacca Straits onto the Pacific Ocean, it gets into the South China Sea and further beyond. So these are the areas from where, you find that the cables pass through. Now, you mentioned about the survey ships or the research vessels which actually go on these paths. So it is possible technically today to monitor or, have influence the data which is flowing through. Or in worst cases, you could actually disrupt this. It has happened in multiple places. Yes, you can disrupt by even dropping an anchor on that submarine cable near the coast. You can actually cut that particular alignment. And if you see it, it's happened in some of these countries very recently. Yeah. So there are possibilities that this undersea cable connectivity gets disrupted. And imagine in a country like ours, where we have large dependence on a global audience, we have a disruption which can slow down our services to our citizens, which can impact on our digital connect. Now, ideally, we should have the entire digital ecosystem to our country. That's called the internet resilience. But now today the internet is actually global. A small impact on this submarine cable connectivity has an impact, as I mentioned. So the way these survey vessels or the research ships actually carry out their activities, it is possible that they are in a position. So they're all being monitored, and they are part of the national maritime domain, alert, situation awareness, etc., are there. So they're all monitored, and it's made sure that our ecosystem is well protected, and there are measures in place.
Right. So coming down, from where we were, there's a large amount of chatter on social media. You go to these various conferences, etc., where people are asking a couple of very important questions. Insofar as, how are we tuned and how are we prepared in terms of protecting our, grids, the energy grids, the infrastructure, the important installations, even health networks, as you just mentioned, sir.
Okay.
Are we geared up for that, or do we look at only a conflict to happen, or it's a 24/7, 365 job?
Okay. So I'd mentioned to you about this large digital connect which we have.
That's
so
correct.
We have a large digital ecosystem comprising of the devices.
Yes.
All of us carry devices.
Yes.
We have the networks.
Yes, sir.
We have the applications. Now, every device you hold, number of applications today, and you look at it, all of us today have multiple applications on on our smart devices. We also have all this throwing out data, which is captured into some storage solutions, which could be on the cloud, it could be on premise, it could be on everywhere. Now, it's so for all sectors, whether it is energy sector, whether it is health sector. So we have the devices which are capturing data. Many of these data of some of these devices, like let's look at health sector. You have a CT scan machine.
Oh,
yes. You have an MRI.
Yes. Yes.
In a hospital today.
Yes.
Today they're all connected digitally. Now the data they actually process, they take off patient there. It actually we don't know as an individual, as a patient, where does this data stored. Now it could be on premise, it could be on this. So it's essential that we have to protect this data, which there are privacy issues connected with it. So we protect this data. We also need to make sure that these devices are protected from a cybersecurity perspective, because they should not be erratic. I'll give you an example of, let's look at ports. Now the ports have containers which are moving every day. There are multiple containers coming in and out of the country. Now there are devices which have the cranes are operated through remotely, through the digital connect. The cranes can work slow, they can work fast. All of this is possible in a digital ecosystem today. It has happened in various developed countries.
Actually,
today.
You're doing it along with your smartphone only. All
yes,
of this
so many of our functions are today with a smartphone. So there are state or non-state actors who have access to this today, and you can actually slow down the movement of the containers into a country and out of the country.
That's very scary, sir.
Yes. So all this is possible in today's ecosystem. So we have organizations which are actually monitoring all this in the country to make sure that our critical infrastructure is protected. So we have the National NCIIPC, National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center, which operates under the NTRO. We have the I4C, the Ministry of Home, which looks at the cybercrime.
Yes.
We have the CERTIN under the MeitY, which is looking at the overall incident management and response in the country. So there are multiple organizations. In addition, we also make sure that sectoral regulators play a major role in protecting the cyber ecosystem. So suffice to say today that we have a large ecosystem which has multiple devices. Now let me also put it across that many of these the infrastructures created may not be most modern. There could be a mix of legacy equipments which are there, which may not be following today's cybersecurity norms.
Yes.
So like power generation, power distribution plants, they might be of yesteryear's vintage. I mentioned about 95.
Correct.
They could be pre-95 vintage. We're still functioning with it. We can't, it's very capital intensive to replace all this.
But do they work, sir?
Absolutely. They are still contributing.
Right.
There are systems which are still working on Windows XP platforms.
Oh, that's old.
That's old. So we need to make sure that they are protected. So the large ecosystem which we have vulnerabilities, because it's a mix of old, new. There are some places where we have security mechanisms, cybersecurity norms which are there. We have citizens who are just not aware of cybersecurity vulnerabilities. We have operators. So it's a huge mix of negatives and positives which we have in our country. So we have structures, and I mentioned about Op SINDOOR. Despite all these challenges, we still were able to protect our assets. And even if we have, I as a cybersecurity coordinator felt at that point of time that there's nothing called perfect cybersecurity. No, because the technical landscape is changing so fast. I think what the artificial intelligence generated.
Yes.
Today there are softwares which can be written, which can make programs to identify vulnerabilities in an ecosystem. It's possible today, and you can do it remotely. So all these are the challenges which we face. But if you come under a threat, are you in a position to identify it first, proactively, stop it, and then restore whatever is there, that resilience which we talk about. So that's where I think we need to focus on. And I think our country has done remarkably well here. But I think the challenge is in having this alertness levels continuously maintained, and we need to have a lot of professionals for it.
Oh yes, we really need to do that. Actually, sir, what is happening is that with the country rising up in the Committee of Nations, and you are looking at the fourth largest economy today. Obviously, yes. It is going to be moving into a large amount of infrastructure. You are energy hungry. You require massive energy grids which have to plug on into the national grid, yes. And all of that, sir. So this actually, I think this is going to be, a part of, not only offensive operations, but proactive operations at 24/7, 365.
So I keep mentioning it to the cyber, players, cyber warriors, we call them.
Yes.
Tell them that, there's nothing called off period. No, it is on, or you have to be alert 24/7.
24/7.
And you have to be proactive every time.
Yes.
And I know any small little vulnerability in any of these systems can actually jeopardize the whole functioning of this.
Yes.
So that's what, the challenges in this ecosystem.
My God.
And this is something which we as citizens, we as, passionate nationalists need to know that our digital connect has its challenges and we need to face it upfront.
Absolutely.
And we as citizens also have a responsibility to make sure that it's protected.
Oh, yes. Of course, I think that is the biggest responsibility that we have, sir. But then, when you look at the entire mosaics insofar as the, cyber warfare is concerned, there are a number of, targets that you need to track at all times.
Yes.
So there are enough, I will not get into the technicalities of the whole thing to, for the viewers. But are we tracking all these people who are essentially wanting to subjugate us into some peril or something else?
That's a good question, actually, because, till a few years back, or maybe a couple of years back, we did not have cybersecurity as part of a charter of any of the ministries.
Oh, yes.
So we realized this deficiency, and last year in 2024, the government has come out with allocation of rules of business, where they have given clear-cut responsibilities to various ministries. Like we have the Department of Telecommunications, which is responsible for securing the networks. We have the MeitY, which is responsible for cyber security from an IT law perspective.
Okay, so that gives the legal angle
to it.
Yes.
And we have the Ministry of Home, which is supposed to be looking at the law and order, the cyber crime aspect of cybersecurity.
So,
and the overall coordination and strategic direction to cybersecurity is actually given by the NSCS.
Okay,
so I'd mentioned to you earlier that it's a part of our national security apparatus.
It is.
So cybersecurity today is integral to our national security, and it's essential that it actually is given a direction from the National Cybersecurity, from the office of the NSCS.
Correct, sir. So, as we delve and go into the future, sir, we delve deep into this cybersecurity quagmire, which most countries are now, dealing with. Where do you see, what is the future of cybersecurity in India, sir? How do we see it, technologically and tactically and strategically, and how do you see it, sir, as the...
every time you have, geopolitics plays a major role in cybersecurity, because I'm sure you're aware of what happens when conflict situations emerge in multiple parts of the world.
Yes.
So one of the first impacted is actually the digital highways which are there. You look at the conflict which is ongoing in Russia, Ukraine, or around Israel. So the first impact is on the digital highways. It's used for both getting your targets, analyzing it, for intelligence gathering first, and also for information dissemination. You saw the media activity post Op SINDOOR. There are challenges and technology which are actually today you can change the entire narrative through deep fakes, artificial, AI driven, voice cloning, etc. All of this is possible today.
Oh, yes.
So when you have situations like that emerging, when you don't know what's truth and what's fiction today, so you have a major challenge.
Major
and all of us as citizens, have heavy dependence on this particular platform today. That's social media.
Oh, yes. So for the doom scrolling, sir, everybody seems to be just doing doom scrolling because nobody is... And doom scrolling is actually shaping narratives.
Yes. So, as and when we connect more digitally, it's going to increase in its quantum. So that's where we have a challenge, that the society is slowly moving from informationalized society, which actually is basing its narrative on social media inputs, and they're all today available in your fingertip. And each of us today can create a narrative.
Oh, yes, sir.
Earlier, it used to be print or electronic media, which, it was a one-sided narrative today. Today, you and I as citizens can make a narrative on our own, and it can be, fictional. It can be based on any other...
anything. Rhetoric, truth, post-truth.
Yes. So that's where we have a major challenge. And that's the way the cyber domain is actually going to transform into for future.
Yes.
And we will continue to have our dependence on this digital domain for future. It's not going to reduce. I mentioned to you that 45% of the world's digital transactions today are within the country. And so this is where I think we need to understand. We also have technology challenges coming up. Like we have the quantum, coming in.
Yes, sir.
Now, the moment the quantum computers come in, many of the transactions which we carry out today, like if today a transaction, it could be a normal conversation. It could be an email which you send from point A to point B. They are all encrypted today.
That's correct.
So also your financial transactions.
Yes, sir.
Now, all of them are based on encryption algorithms, which are ensuring that your data from that movement from point A to point B is protected.
Yes, sir.
Now, when quantum computers come in, this particular protection which that encryption algorithms provide you today is susceptible to breakages. Because the strength of that algorithm is based on the multiple factors. The strength of the algorithm which we have is number of keys, or you have the software. All these are part of that strength of that algorithm.
Yes, sir.
Now, the quantum computers can break this particular encryption algorithm. So we need to have many of our transactions which we carry out in our day-to-day activities having a PQC. That is, we call it post-quantum cryptograph enabled.
Oh, yes.
So that's something which we need to work on. So it's work in progress, where when quantum computers come in fact, I'm sure you're aware that we have China, which actually has demonstrated a 105 qubit quantum computer.
Is it for true, sir? Is it real?
It is in the. I've also read it from the social media only.
Yes, sir.
But even within our country, we have made a 25 qubit computer. One of the firms have developed it. So it's not that our country
firm, sir.
Yes, a private firm has developed this, and it's also available on social media.
Oh, yes.
So there are a lot of developments taking place within our country and outside, and I think our country is also doing extremely well in this domain.
Yes, sir.
So we have the challenges which technology gives in terms of AI-driven software functions, deepfakes, all this. We have the quantum bringing in encryption challenges. We have another aspect of supply chain.
Yes.
Now, this is one thing which we need to be very careful of, because the large digital ecosystem which we have today gets its components, the products, the sourcing of these components are from some sources which are dubious. Now, unless we make it ourselves,
yes,
we cannot be 100% sure.
With own IPR.
Yes, IPRs, and also the fact that the component has to be made within the country. Then we have deficiencies in chips. We don't make our own chips, which I'm sure the government has put in so much of initiatives. And I'm sure within this year, maybe next 2 years, I think we will start making our own chips.
Yes.
So we'll have an ecosystem which is coming up where we'll have the supply chain for at least the digital ecosystem coming up from indigenous sources. So that should strengthen this digital highway a little better. So these are some of the issues, what should come in future.
Oh, yes, sir. So outstanding thoughts. I think, quantum and the encryption issues, the supply chain issues, our own chips, I think it's critical. And the kind of work India Semiconductor Mission has done in the last around 3 years, I think it's simply commendable.
Correct.
I mean, for a short period of time in 3 years, a lot of people, the problem in India is everybody seems to be expecting some miracles in a year or 2 or 3 years. Yes. But the kind of work they've done, I think it's astounding, as you very clearly brought out, sir. As we finish, sir, you've been in the uniform, and so have I been, sir. And you have been the National Cybersecurity Chief as well. There's a great debate on these days. The debate is, do you look at platforms or do you look at networks? What's your take on that, sir?
All right. I think I mentioned to you that digital highways are the future. So I would always bet on the digital networks for future.
Okay,
and I think, like I mentioned earlier also, that right from information gathering to processing it to storage to it. And today, you look at Op SINDOOR, we actually carried out operations sitting in our place. We punished without too much of pain to the citizens.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
punished with a purpose.
Yes, absolutely.
And we achieved our
Astounding victory.
yeah. So that's the way the future warfare is going to be aligned. And can we do it with platforms? So I think we need to look at our doctrines and concepts and look at give more focus to networks, and maybe the networks also pan out optical fiber networks, electromagnetic spectrum
EM
operations,
spectrum, yes.
space-based platforms which are there today.
Critical, actually.
So all of us hear about several of those space-based platforms which are coming up. So we need to focus on these, and with the connectivity which is going to come up, and with the digital connect which each of these sensors and shooters are going to provide. I think maybe it's time that we need to look at less of platforms
And more of
networks.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, sir. Less of platforms, more of networks. Looking at encryption issues in quantum computing, looking at protecting the infrastructure and all logistics installations in this country, energy grids, power grids, health grids, and cybersecurity is the name of the game as we move on into the future and go into the Viksit Bharat of 2047. I think it's been one of the most amazing talks with you, sir, and I have been really enlightened by whatever you've told us. And I think we should be proud of us, all of us as citizens of this great nation as to what we have done and what strides we have achieved. All I have to say is to thank you for giving all these thoughts, and we hope to see you again on our show sometime later.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful interacting with you, and I look forward to having further interactions like this in future.
Thank you very much.